Welcome back everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to Portrush Park Run, the first run of 2024. It's always good at this time of year just to look back at the last 12 months of running, see what went well, more importantly what didn't, and take those lessons forward to the planning for next year, for 2024. Starting of course here in January 2023, when things kicked off with a bang, with the London Marathon entry. More on that later. The Ballymena runners raced over the Glens, which is a really hilly 10k to kick off 2023, and the training with the marathon training plan underway. January also saw the continuation of the Born to Run Winter Trail Series, with Tullymore and Upton 10ks both in this month. February then started with Strabane and Derry City Park runs. Began to see some benefits to the training, consistently getting under 30 minutes a park run while running easy, sticking to the 5 days of running per week, ticking off run after run, session after session, and generally getting into good shape as planned. March then was a different story. 4 days in, and during Limerick Valley Park run, the old calf injury recurred, resulted in a limp finish here. Not ideal in itself, much less the fact that it happened a week out from the first planned race of the year, the Lisbon Half Marathon. Took a week off at this stage to try and let the calf recover, give myself the best chance of making the half marathon start line, and somehow managed to finish it, limping around the last 7 miles or so, with the calf really causing me trouble, but got finished in the glorious sunshine of Lisbon, a city and a race I'd really recommend to anybody. Such a lovely course with one of the most breathtaking first miles of any race I've ever done here, over the 25th of April bridge in glorious sunshine. It really was an experience, dampened slightly by the calf injury, but it's better than not doing it at all, I suppose. With another week off and some physio input, I managed to finish March quite strongly with a Larne 10-mile race, running a strong sub 1:30 time, about the pace I actually wanted to run in the Lisbon half a few weeks prior, so feeling like I was back on track again. Into April then, that feeling wouldn't last too long. The calf gave up for the final time, half a mile into what was supposed to be a 17-mile long run, and the decision was then made to withdraw from the London Marathon 2023. It's only been deferred from 2019 through the pandemic and finally to 2023. It means that entry is now completely gone, but there's no way of getting around that race with the calf the way it was. Giving up half a mile into a 17-mile long run shows how bad it was.
But with that World Marathon Major opportunity out, came an unexpected opportunity to go and watch another. And in April, we were off to Boston, the most prestigious and difficult World Marathon Major to get into, to run the Boston 5k, again more of a limp, on the Friday, and then watch the main event, the 2023 Boston Marathon, on a damp day, but spectating the likes of Eliud Kipchoge and walking the final few miles of this iconic Boston Marathon course, including the infamous Heartbreak Hill, was an incredible experience. And while not the same as running the race itself, obviously, comes a close second and definitely softened the blow of missing out in London this year. Back home in May, it was in spectating mode for Belfast Marathon, with a number of running friends completing the pretty difficult course on a very changeable day here in Belfast. For me, no running again then for around 4 weeks until the end of May, with the Ballyclare Mayfair 5k, and then finishing, ticking off the list of Northern Ireland park runs, number 37 to 37 in Rostrevor, on a roasting hot day. It's a really hilly course actually, but views that made it a really fitting one to finish the tour of all the Northern Ireland park runs on. Another period of running downtime followed, post a semi-successful varicose vein foam injection in the troublesome calf, and the rest that required. Ruled off basically the month of June, and in July started back slow and easy runs with a tentative eye on building mileage up towards an autumn marathon. The next race then, after that downtime, was Grey Abbey 5k, a lovely but undulating course on a warm summer's night. Reasonable enough 26 minutes 41 seconds, a bit of a pleasant surprise, a sign that it might be safe to push on with the training for the rest of the summer. working up to double-digit mile runs before the next race of the summer, the Larne 10K. In this one, around 57.27, shortly followed by the Donaghadee 5K, bit of a disappointing one, a little bit slower than Grey Abbey a couple of weeks prior, but despite that, I continued to pick up mileage each Sunday. And then next up, in early August, was the Mount Stewart half marathon, the Run the Trails event at the National Trust location, Mount Stewart in County Down. 2 laps around a beautiful location, and that got me mileage wise up to the half marathon stage and again towards where I wanted to be for the autumn marathon. August then became a training month with a 15-mile long run, followed up by 2 17-mile long runs, getting over that 3-hour hurdle in training and getting ready for what would be the Berlin Marathon in September. September then was race month, and not just 1 or 2 or 3 of them, but 4 different races. Starting with the Ards 5 Mile on one of the warmest days of the year, and continuing on with travelling to Denmark for the second of the Super Half Series, the Copenhagen Half Marathon. On another roasting hot day, like what a city to have the privilege to run through. Another one, a bit like Lisbon, that really earns the Super Half title. I loved this run. Although finishing this run, knowing that exactly a week later I'd have to do the distance again, twice, was a little disconcerting. But it was such an amazing atmosphere, amazing event to be part of, and certainly one that I recommend to absolutely anyone, and the city as well, although it's quite expensive. But that notwithstanding, it was an amazing race. Race number 3 then in September was the big one, the Berlin Marathon. However, in the intervening week between Copenhagen and Berlin, we travelled to Warsaw and managed to pick up quite a nasty cold. Still able to get out for a couple of runs here, one in changeable weather and one in really, really warm conditions. But still stayed determined, despite the cold, to get to the start line in Berlin, being my favourite of all the races I've ever done, and give it my best shot. Especially this year with the London letdown. I was probably over the worst of the cold anyway, and just wanted to get round. And in the spirit of enjoying the race, enjoying Berlin, for the first time in the 6 years I've been going to Berlin for this marathon, I took part in the Saturday morning breakfast run with massive numbers, starting at Charlottenburg Palace and finishing at the Berlin Olympic Stadium. It's really well worth doing, actually, to ramp up the excitement before the marathon, and it's a real proper feed at the end for the participants. And I think anyone can take part, not just those in the marathon. People just turn up in their droves to give this one a go. Lovely morning for it as well, which is always a bonus. Sunday then, and as you can see, it was a lemsip prior to the race, which is definitely not the traditional pre-race refreshment, but got me to the start line on a bit of an overcast morning, probably perfect conditions and temperatures to start with, and onto the run, which I was really struggling to get into for the first hour or so. I did have thoughts, quite serious thoughts, of dropping out at times for the first sort of 5k or so, but once I get into the sort of second hour, I started to settle in and enjoy it. The sun came out and things started to flow a bit better, and I just sort of noticed about halfway that my pace was still pretty steady. It wasn't dropping off as the miles ticked by, and that continued the whole way through. Got chatting to a few people, got sort of to enjoy it. The miles just kind of flowed. Up until about the mile 23 mark, where my legs in the space of about 5 minutes went from feeling pretty okay to really not okay. But for a random refreshment stand at 23 miles with full sugar cola, which I've never actually tried before in the middle of a race, but now would recommend. I'm not sure how I kept going without that, but the sugar really hit me quite quickly. Fired me up for the last sort of 2 miles then, and I managed to not only finish, but finish in 4:43, far from a PB, but about 10 minutes faster than at Berlin 2022, which I was absolutely delighted about in the circumstances. And again, to just finish, to come through that Brandenburg Gate at the end, video just here linked, just an amazing feeling. And I've said this about a couple of races in this video, but heartily recommend this one to anybody at all who wants to do a major marathon. It's a really fast course, normally good conditions, so well organised and so well supported. And I can't wait to go back and get number 7 in 2024, fingers crossed. September still had one more race to come then, the Bangor 10 kilometres, which was held a week after Berlin. That's Saturday after Berlin, about 6 days. the Northern Ireland 10k championship race with almost 1,000 participants, and actually surprised myself here as well, going about a minute faster over this course than earlier in the year at the Larne 10k. All things considered, against the backdrop of 2023's injuries and issues, September was the purple patch. It was the month that couldn't have gone much better. Race after race, no injuries, decent improvement over 2022, and absolutely loved how that month went. It was the highlight of the year. Into October then, the very next day after Bangor, the next race was Waggy races. Bit more of a chilled out atmosphere for this one, up in Port Stewart, along the Port Stewart Promenade with Comet and Georgia. Another lovely day and a good run along the beach to end the series of races in the past 4 weeks. Definitely one of the more relaxed and enjoyable ones, but yeah, everyone enjoyed it on the day. The rest of October and into November then consisted of trying to keep training consistently and adding in a speedwork session once a week on a Thursday night normally after work, getting 400 metre intervals as part of a 4 to 5 mile run, building that up from 4 to 6 intervals within that period, as well as going to watch a number of local races from the Dublin Marathon in pretty horrendous conditions this year, but again supporting a lot of friends who were doing this one and done very well on the day despite those challenging conditions, although I would argue it's almost tougher for spectators in this weather. I'd nearly rather have been running. And also to the competitive as ever CD Cup 10k held around Ormeau Park at the start of December, again with a big turnout here. So December this month started with more training, more park runs, but punctuated by a week off due to pretty heavy cold that I can still feel just a little bit, but thankfully lifted enough for the Christmas park runs. Waterworks park run on Christmas Day with Comet. Nothing special in terms of time, but got it done. And it's quickly become a part of the Christmas Day tradition for me to get this done before the turkey comes out. What isn't normally part of the Christmas routine, especially after a heavy day's eating, is a Boxing Day race. But that's exactly what I foolishly booked a few weeks prior. Post the Strabane park run, thinking with a few weeks extra training, with a bit more conditioning, I could dip under the 25-minute mark I haven't been able to get to in about 5 years. But I hadn't counted on being floored by the cold for a week, and I wasn't feeling too confident going into the run, but I did somehow manage to dip under the 26-minute mark with a 25:58 regardless, so just about, on quite an undulating 3-lap course in East Belfast, which rounds off a very up and down year on a slight bit of a high, I suppose, and some optimism going into 2024.
In 2024, that video will come next week, but needless to say, more of the same. Starting off today, racing with the Glens, or more accurately, finishing off racing with the Glens.
Thanks to everyone who watched along this year. For all of you who subscribed this year, check out my new Instagram link here, where I'll put up more day-to-day bits and pieces. And finally, just thanks everyone. Hope you all had a good Christmas and New Year, and catch you in the goals for 2024 video in the next week or so. Take care and thanks.